This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 902, recorded on Wednesday, November 23rd, 2022. Who's thankful for science? I think everyone here right now. I'm Dr. Kiki, and tonight on the show, we will fill your heads with duplications, Europeans, and frogs. But first, thanks to our amazing Patreon sponsors for their generous support of TWIS. You can become a part of the Patreon community at patreon.com/thisweekinscience.
Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. No new action on curbing emissions. That's the result of the COP27 meeting. Nothing, zero, zilch. All the speeches, all the media hype, all the past commitments amounted to nothing. There were no agreements to reduce carbon, no agreements to phase out coal and oil industry subsidies, no agreements on rethinking agricultural practices, no agreements to meet past commitments on afforestation, no agreements on industry aerosol reduction, no agreements to fund research solutions to scale alternative energy or to face the increasing environmental degradation heading our way. If anything, it was a total surrender to another generation of complete reliance on fossil fuels. The 27th Conference of the Parties Convention on Climate Change was a massive public failure of leadership and political resolve, one that deeply discredited the urgency with which governments of the world claim to be taking the issue of change. And it was perhaps the most productive meeting we could have asked for. It provided a clear roadmap of dead ends, of non-starters. Notably, the United Nations will not be leading us to a solution. It offered confessions of culpability in the way of loss and damages, payments to nations most affected by global warming, though done so with no clear outline of how those funds will be distributed, who will pay, or when. And it solidified the belief among many that the political power industry is greater than the collective will of a majority of global citizens who want action. So what is next? Science! It has the solutions. Without funding and legislation, those solutions are not likely to be realized. But if we keep working on them, increasing the feasibility and diversity of those solutions, eventually the world will have no other option than complete and total reliance on This Week in Science. Coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind I can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening, what's happening, what's happening this week in science. What's happening, what's happening, what's happening this week in science.
Good science to you, Kiki and Blair.
Good science to you too, Justin, Blair, and everyone out there. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Science. We are back again to talk about science on this pre-Thanksgiving Day of giving thanks. Also, that we'd like to say thanks to the indigenous peoples of the United States for all they have done and all the knowledge they can bring and all the land that we have put our homes upon and the reality that we are now standing in a place that was previously peopled by the indigenous peoples. But let's talk about
and is currently.
Not this spot.
And currently.
This spot. And currently, but put in various places. And yeah. Okay, anyway. All sorts of colonization
Still
stuff.
occupied territory.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit. That's where I was going with that. But welcome, everyone. I am so glad that you are here. And thank you. Thank you for being with us on this day. I'm always grateful for you joining us for science. Let's talk about it. What do I have for this week? I have tons of science news about bat genes, fat birds, and makeup. What do you have, Justin?
I have got a couple of stories to do with global warming. I've got some just good news, mass extinction edition. And if I make it to the end of the show with the internet's a use of wastewater that we haven't thought of before, I guess.
Fantastic. I mean, usually we just want to clean the wastewater, but a use for wastewater. Maybe that's a positive direction. Blair, what is in the animal corner?
Oh, I have such good conversation topics for everyone celebrating Thanksgiving tomorrow. I can't wait for you to bring this up around the table. I have fish mothers that eat their babies. I have how exactly frogs swallow, and chimps showing off to their parents.
Show off chimps.
Nice themed show today.
I think it's going to be fantastic. And I hope everyone's looking forward to all that we are bringing today. As we jump into the show, I want to remind you all that if you are not yet subscribed, you can find us all places podcasts are found. You can find us streaming live Wednesday evenings, 8 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. We are normally This Week in Science, but we're also at TWIS Science on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. Our website is twis.org. But now, let's jump in to that big old turkey we like to call science. Okay, no. Anyway, there's going to be lots of...
Yeah, what did you base your science in this week?
Thanksgiving jokes. The first thing I want to stuff into your heads is a little bit... it's a little batty. Yes, we are going to talk about bat viruses. We've talked about bat viruses with respect to COVID and other diseases before, and the reality that we know that bats harbor lots of viruses. In fact, they are reservoirs for these viruses where the viruses kind of do battle and mutate and figure out ways out. And then potentially because people and bats or the other parts of the ecosystem that bats interact with and humans interact, eventually those viruses potentially can jump to humans. So one of the big questions is, what is it about the bat immune system that allows them to harbor so many viruses and not get sick with them themselves? Because that's what happens. These bats, they get infected, but they don't get sick. So the question is, what's going on in their genes? And a study was just published this week in Science Advances called Adaptive Duplication and Genetic Diversification of Protein Kinase R contribute to the specificity of bat virus interactions. So what does this mean? Well, the researchers dug into a bunch of bat genomes, and in doing so, they were able to determine that there is this one particular family of genes, protein kinase R, and the protein kinase R gene, somewhere along the way, it got duplicated. And so bat genomes, and they looked at 33 species focusing on 33 of more than 130 different species of mouse-eared bats. This is from the genus Myotis. They were able to determine that there was at least one duplication, but most species had more than 2 copies. So there were multiple duplications of this particular gene that is specifically called EIF2AK2. They found also closely related sequences, so not only just duplications, but duplications and very slight alterations, but all still within this group of genes that create these protein kinases, which are enzymes that are active in the immune system. And so the idea is that these enzymes then are part of beating up and battling and eating up viruses. And the viruses and the bats have been doing battle for a very long time. Yes. What?
Well, it's just interesting because kinase enzymes tend to be additive. They usually look for stuff and they go, "Oh, hey, you forgot your phosphate hat. Here, put that on. Now you're good to go." Yeah, they're kind of running around, finding people walking down the street missing an accessory, and they fix them up and send them on their way again. So I'm curious how this is working now. Is it finding bits of the virus and going, oh no, you're dressed all wrong, and then putting it in some big mittens?
You need it. You need a
can't
phosphate
wear
hat
handles anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. You need that hat. You don't need that hat. Oh, you need that. You don't need that. Exactly. Changing around these protein kinases are Dr. Seussing the viruses up. They have been a very specific aspect of how these bats are battling viruses and don't get infected by them. They say in this abstract that duplicated PKRs of the Myotis species have undergone genetic diversification, allowing them to collectively escape from and enhance the control of DNA and RNA viruses. This suggests that viral-driven adaptations in PKR contribute to modern virus-bat interactions and may account for bat-specific immunity. And if this is indeed the case, this starts to give us a target to look at, and it starts to potentially tell us how we can target viruses, where their weak spots are, what we can start going after. And if we understand how the bats evade the viruses, maybe it can help us evade the viruses as well. But it is very indicative of predator-prey interactions. The researchers said that going into these genomes, they really were able to see that these viruses and bats have been like the immune system of bats versus viruses have been like ratcheting up at each other for millennia.
So this isn't so much why bats are such great zoonotic carriers. It's more why their populations aren't destroyed by the viruses that when they hop to us are really detrimental, right?
Well, it's kind of both. Yeah, it's how they're good carriers, but it's also, why they don't really get sick, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they can carry it and not, their populations aren't decimated. So but it also leads to the mutations that many viruses are having that potentiate that jump to humans. Yeah.
And a good virus doesn't kill its host. It keeps it alive. So it's a perfect incubator for that reason. Since they can fight it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Interesting.
And again, it's probably, I would think, like just largely an accident of nature that gets this started in the first place. Anything else that these viruses are showing up into, they could be killing off a population or a portion of the population, which also then reduces the virus's ability to us. It very much reminds me of Bats Toxo. Because the way that, because I keep wondering, like, where Toxoplasma gondii got into cats. Because from what we've understood, one of the mechanisms is they lack an enzyme in their gut that allows reproduction to take place. So the T. gondii probably started in something non-mammal, because all mammals, except for cats, who seem to have had an evolutionary oopsie, where they've lost for some time. Every other mammal has it, and it doesn't reproduce. And so sometimes their parasites are very opportunistic, and they happen to get into something that through whatever evolutionary oopsies that have taken place, go, this is a great home to continue to do my reproduction, or I won't get kicked out. Right?
Yeah. But it's, researchers are looking into bats. We need to understand the bats, the cats, and all the viruses and what they're doing. And I'm glad that researchers are finding out more about what leads to the viruses that end up affecting us. Justin, what'd you bring? What do you want to talk about next?
All right. Let's see. Oh, wait. Grouchy Gammers say, do the cat families also have the virus? It's not a virus. It's a parasite, T. gondii. Yes. But the big cats... from my understanding, make some of the enzyme. It's a lower level than I think a lot of other mammals.
I know they can carry it because
everybody can carry it.
They don't want pregnant zookeepers to clean out the hay bales,
the kitty cages,
the cats. Yes,
so they must reproduce
there's a concern.
There as well.
Yeah.
So then how far
there's
back
theories that it reproduces in otters too. It kind of, there's confusion about it. It's not, the jury's out on exactly where it's happening.
I haven't heard about the otter thing yet. Okay. What do I got? I have, this is climate change, which could sound like a thermostat setting. Global warming, which could sound like a snug sweater near a campfire on a chilly morning just as the sun comes up. My personal preference for calling it climatia never caught on, but would have sounded more appropriate to my ear. Common misnomer is that global temperature will be rising uniformly worldwide. They will not. Warming during summer months in Europe and elsewhere has been increasing faster than the global average. According to researchers at Stockholm University who have published new findings in the journal Geophysical Research Atmospheres, the climate across the European continent has become not just hotter, but also drier, leading to worse heat waves and risk of fire. Even referencing back to the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, warming over land areas occurs significantly faster than over oceans. The goal to stay under 1.5 degrees warming has to do with global average ocean temperatures. That's where that main focus has been. On land, measurements reveal that warming in large parts of Europe has already surpassed 2 degrees in the summer months. In southern Europe, feedback loops caused by global warming are being amplified due to drier soil and decreased evaporation, and there has been less cloud coverage over large parts of Europe as a result of less water vapor in the air. The study also includes a section about the estimated impact of aerosol particles on temperature increase. So warming is mostly a consequence of these long-lived greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide. These are things that trap heat. They can collect infrared solar radiation and then shoot it back down at the planet. So they're just like a nice warm heated blanket. Emissions of shorter-lived aerosol particles, like say soot from a coal-fired power plant, have decreased greatly over the last 40 years, which is a good thing because that emits a lot of carbon into the atmosphere and is toxic, radioactive. Oh gosh, you burn coal, you get a lot of radioactive isotopes floating around. But they're pointing out the soot did also do something else, because that kind of an aerosol in the atmosphere scatters sunlight back out into space and actually has a mild cooling effect on the local areas. So as dirty greenhouse gas emitting power plants have been replaced, their localized cooling effects have also gone away, which then reveal the true effects of the greenhouse gas increases and heat attributed to them. So there's kind of a double whammy going on, as a lot of, especially this is largely, I think, southern eastern Europe has moved away from these coal power plants. The accelerated heating on land is being shown above 2 degrees in the summers already.
Yeah.
And we've, of course, seen some of the heat waves in other parts of the world as well that are unprecedented. But yeah, the whole blowing past the 1.5 that we've been seeing in the news because the COP27 meeting didn't do anything. 1.5 was also, for the IPCC's reports, was also the rosiest number. It was the low end of the spectrum of what we were in for to begin with. And it only counts if you're on the open ocean. Over land, you're already there. You may have even blown past it already.
But the number itself, the 1.5, is the global average. So when you talk about over land, over water, it's cumulatively averaging all of those higher numbers and lower numbers and putting it together. So yes, we are globally, yet locally there are these regions, yes, in the summertime, we're blowing past stuff where the ocean is keeping things, cooler. But yeah, what this really suggests is it's good we're cleaning things up. Seeing what we're actually doing is like a slap in the face. And nobody wants to do anything about it. They just want to shove all the dirty stuff in the closet and shut the door and ignore it.
Yeah, well, I mean, so the problem with that, though, of course, is that the planet is mostly ocean.
Yes.
So if the oceans are at 1.5, and we know that it's dramatically higher over land,
it's over. Yeah.
When you get to the average of 1.5, the oceans may be at 1.2, and everything else is at 3. Like it's the ratio there. Mostly what they're tracking. Yes, there's a little bit. It's more global. There's other sources, but it's mostly an ocean temperature thing. That 1.5. Everything else is going to be well above that.
We are going. It's what's happening. There were some agreements made at COP27, whether or not you agree with the way that they're going to be putting money away, the political decisions. I'm glad these conversations are happening, but yeah, it's going to be, the solutions are really going to have to be more, and it's going to have to be a different.
We're going to end up playing catch up in a big way. Yeah, that's very clear. Is that like that we're borrowing from tomorrow is what's currently happening, and all of a sudden everyone's going to go, oh no, what's happened? And try to backtrack, and that's going to be way harder than trying to do things now. Yes, absolutely. It's only getting harder and harder.
So there's already a problem with their whole loss and payment scheme idea.
Yeah.
It's because they can't agree on whether or not they're going to base those payments on current emitters, of which India and China would have to pay a lot of money, or historic emitters, in which China and India would pay a lot less. But,
and the other problem is that certain countries are selling the oil that then other countries are burning. So then who pays for that? And currently it's looking like the people doing the burning, but there's also the selling of the oil, which is part of the deal. So it's, it's complicated.
We have solutions.
So then nobody's getting any money. And if the money goes to any of these countries, it's going to be so vague. And so it's not going to go to people who are hurt. It's not going to go to the local farmer who lost his crops because of global warming. It's not going to go to any of these people. It's just not. Stop. Don't pretend. Don't pretend your dollars are going
to go into the building of structures that burn fossil fuels, because
or the soccer stadium. Stop.
Hopefully it'll go into the construction of sustainable fuels, solar panels, wind farms,
nothing,
hydro generation. No,
there's no language in any of it that indicates any of it would go there. There's none.
I am thankful for science because it tells me things, and sometimes you can just ignore the people and the politics. So anyway, let's move away from the changing climatia, and this disease we've given our planet, and let's talk about birds trying to fly through the air.
Yes, I know many people will be boarding an airplane today, tomorrow, Friday. And when they do, one of the things you really don't want is turbulence on your flight. And to know if you might have a turbulent flight, maybe you should ask the pigeons. This is a study with academics from Swansea University, collaborating with University of Leeds, the Max Planck Institute of Animal Behavior, and the University of Constance. And they looked at flying a small aircraft along and close to a track of pigeons. They wanted to measure the turbulence levels and see if pigeons might have something to tell us beyond the instruments we currently use to measure turbulence.
Can we use birds bouncing in the air to tell us about the air? Okay.
Exactly. So the unsteadiness of the birds, the bump up and down, this can be used to understand how turbulent the conditions are. They hooked up some backpacks essentially to these pigeons, And they compared the measurements that they collected, GPS, barometric pressure, and acceleration data. They compared that to that measured by an anemometer. I always want to say it wrong. Anemometer on board the aircraft. That's how English works. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. Anyway, so lots of syllables. So basically, they looked at these two things, and they found out that they could indeed use bird-borne sensors to calculate free stream turbulence in nature. This, of course, depends on the pigeons going where you're interested in getting measurements. So there is that kind of interesting caveat of, do you train the pigeons? Do you just measure pigeons everywhere? And for the most part, they're looking specifically at using this to measure these conditions in areas where it's kind of inaccessible to humans. So they likened it to using seals with sensors on to measure salinity and sea temperatures under ice caps. So they could strap some backpacks onto these birds and send them into areas that are remote or difficult to access to collect atmospheric data. What's interesting is that, remember, it depends on where the pigeons go. Is that the pigeons could fly in conditions that were too turbulent for sensors. For the kind of our sensors that are not strapped to pigeons. But there was also some suggestion on how pigeons might have avoided certain routes with very high turbulence. That could be data that you could include. This pigeon went way out of their way to go over here. That means there's a high turbulence area in this space. So that also raises the question of how birds cope with high turbulence and the effect that it has on flight costs. Because if you're going way out of the way to avoid turbulence, then, that does make your flight longer or more difficult or takes you off course. You have to spend more time and energy navigating any number of things that come as a result of that. But basically, the long and short of this is that birds could be used as a remote sensor for wind turbulence and that it could allow us to go places where our normal devices cannot go and fly in conditions that our normal devices could not fly in. So there you go.
I feel like this study was done by a researcher who accidentally crossed over from the parallel dimension where all air travel is done by Zeppelin.
Right. Yes.
Yes, we could outfit all the Zeppelins with pigeons who will tell them about current turbulence conditions, and we can send them out and they will find us the best route.
See, I'm picturing more like, ladies and gentlemen, if you look to the right of your aircraft, you will see the Grand Canyon, and if I look at my pigeon friends out in front, they are bobbing up and down, which means we're in for a bit of a bumpy ride here, so just strap in and stay seated.
Yeah, are they tied to the wing? Like, where are these pigeons?
We're tying them to the wing. No, I mean, I do wonder.
Fly? How high?
Not that fast.
Yeah,
how fast can a pigeon fly? How fast can a pigeon fly? How far? How much turbulence can a pigeon take? What determines how a pigeon chooses its route? What is it that the birds see in the air that we can't see? How do they watch the clouds? What do they know?
Right. And this is still a question we're trying to answer because we still don't have a firm grasp on how pigeons navigate the landscape.
Yeah.
So is this part of that? No idea.
Oh, I bet you I know how they do it. I just figured it out. I got it. We just learned that insects flying emit electrical field.
Uh-huh.
If pigeons can see an electrical field, they can say, hey, there's no insects in the air over there. Must be too turbulent. I'll go this way. That's it. They're navigating by a smaller winged creature.
By bug. Yeah, got it. And then the bugs are doing it by bacteria, right?
They're listening to the flowers, which are listening to the bacteria.
Got it.
You missed a step there. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, there was a talking flower story. I didn't.
It's probably everybody's following those electric fields. I'm sure the ions are a sensory field that are very important. But we'd have to look into that. So next step, pigeons. How do they sense changes in the ion fields?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, after that Thanksgiving meal or that Thanksgiving travel that you're doing, flying Pigeon Air, You are going to have a meal, and at some point, you'll probably have to go to the bathroom, and there may be some defecation involved. And sometimes, if there's defecation involved and you look in the toilet, you go, oh, that sank. Or, oh, look, a floater. And what on earth determines the difference between?
Well, Oprah told me it was about calcium.
It's not about calcium.
Oprah had a whole show about it, I think, in the 90s.
Yeah, well,
floating poop means calcium.
Well,
Oprah was wrong?
Our information has come a ways.
Oh.
And now the microbiome is a big area of research. There was some question not related to calcium, but whether oil levels determined the buoyancy of your fecal matter. But these researchers who published their paper in Scientific Reports, they're from the Mayo Clinic, they had germ-free mice. They had experimentally, microbially colonized mice, and they had naturally gut colonized mice. And they compared the different buoyancies of the food that passed through. And you want to know what they determined? Those mice that had no bacteria, the germ-free mice, they produced sinkers. So bacteria are partially responsible for what's going on. And what is responsible is the amount of gas that the bacteria are producing. So gas-producing bacteria, Bacteroides ovatus, is one species that has been linked to flatulence in humans. There are other forms of bacteria that they specifically worked with. But really, the more gas that your bacteria produce, the more you're going to have a floater.
But there's a huge problem with this. Mice don't eat what we eat.
Mice do not eat what we eat, but they do have, they do have bacteria that we have.
Right.
And
so
different bacteria
is so different from ours.
But they can have sinkers or floaters, apparently. And they took away the bacteria and they sank. It's all about gas.
No. This is really hard for me to buy. I understand in terms of mouse sinkers and floaters. I'm on board. Yes. It sounds great. But
applying it to humans or other species.
Also, mostly lab mice eat like pellet food, which is homogeneous and is always exactly the same. And our diet is extremely varied. And so if you're eating the exact same thing every day, then your sinker or floater might have to do with the amount of bacteria. But I'm just saying there's other things involved in what is in the poop.
Right. But what you eat it's also a two-way highway. What you eat influences what's in your gut. And so when you have, say, more fiber or more beans or other things that lead to more gas production, that's going to lead to different formations of things.
I'm just saying, like,
your diet.
Multiple things could make, potentially, we don't know, right? But multiple things could make feces sink or float. It doesn't just have to be the bacteria, right? So
yes,
it's based on this experiment, we don't know if changing their diet, but maintaining a certain, like, keep seeding them the same bacteria over and over, would that change anything? We don't know that, right?
You're right. Fair point. Point to Blair and everyone, see how your Thanksgiving meal goes.
Yeah.
And remember, if you smell something at the table and it's not the coming from the turkey, don't blame your relatives. It's their microbes.
It's their microbes.
It's the dog. That's one of the reasons to have a dog. Blame the dog.
Now we know, Blair. Okay, just... We've been talking about waste. Justin, do you have more waste to waste our audience's time on?
Okay. So, this follows nicely, apparently. According to environmental engineering researchers at Drexel University, we should be using our sewage wastewater to fertilize crops. The production of nitrogen for fertilizer is energy intensive and accounts for nearly 2% of global carbon dioxide emissions. It's higher than I thought it would have been. New study looks at a process for removing ammonia from wastewater and converting it into fertilizer, and suggests that it's technically viable. It would reduce the carbon footprint of fertilizer production, creating a circular nitrogen economy. This is according to Patrick Gurian, a professor in Drexel U College of Engineering, quoting, "This means we are using existing nitrogen rather than expending energy and generating greenhouse gas to harvest nitrogen from the atmosphere, which is a more sustainable practice for agriculture and could become a source of revenue for utilities." Under the Clean Water Act, 1972 in the United States, municipal water treatment facilities have to meet certain standards of quality control for the water that they are discharging back into the waterways. Ammonia is at elevated levels in wastewater and can result in overgrowth in vegetation, which then can kill fish if it's released. So they have a couple of options. One is they create it takes a lot of time, and they put out in these big fields and sort of let it off gas slowly over time. And other ways that they do it can be rather energy intensive. So one of the options that they've been looking at here is something called air stripping, which removes ammonia by raising the temperature and pH of the water enough to convert the chemical into a gas, which can then be collected in a concentrated form as ammonium sulfate. Using data from Philadelphia's water treatment facility and several others across North America and Europe, the team conducted a life cycle assessment, an economic feasibility assessment. They looked at the factors ranging from the cost of installing and maintaining the air stripping system to the concentration of ammonia and flow rate of the wastewater to the sources of energy used to drive the collection and conversion process and down to the production and transportation cost and market price that the fertilizer chemicals would have there. So it sounds like they did a pretty nice print analysis and feasibility analysis of this thing. They said that findings of the feasibility analysis show the air stripping emits 5 to 10 times less greenhouse gas than current nitrogen producing processes used to make fertilizer. And it uses about 15 times less energy, making the overall cost of producing the fertilizer this way from the wastewater far, far cheaper, a magnitude cheaper than it would be the old way. Yeah. So this also cuts the time and processing needed to treat the water, which means the turnaround time of getting that wastewater back into fresh water out back into the environment would be faster, which could be helpful. So the process wouldn't replace chemical production of nitrogen for fertilizer, because we make so much of that, and we just don't have enough.
It's a huge
of
need.
Our own wastewater. But it would be a reduction, and it would be a sustainable reduction, and it's taken one more thing out of the footprint, and that's what we need. There are some big solutions out there that can be looked at, can be addressed, can be discovered, can be scaled up to some degree. But usually once you look at scaling up, like the afforestation thing that's going to take over something 30% larger than the United States of dense trees,
right?
Or something like 250,000 or million, some of those carbon capture container things that they built a while ago. They've been being built. I think those might be in Norway. There's a lot of big scale, but there's a lot of small solutions. If you string enough of the small solutions together, you get a decent amount of the way there.
And this is the kind of thing. Oh, I was just saying, this is the kind of thing that if you have an industry that's producing extra ammonium or nitrogen, nitrates and ammonia, that you can use that and create another product. And so this is, take a byproduct, turn it into a product, as opposed to just letting it into the atmosphere, or even take it out of the atmosphere, like you were saying. And, I think that is part of the benefit, especially, reducing the polluting that we do into our atmosphere. But Blair, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's exactly it, is thinking about the ammonia that we produce with our bodies as a byproduct or something that needs to be processed, when before we lived in these buildings with plumbing, that was actually part of the whole nitrogen cycle.
Yep.
Is you consume food, you release nitrogen back into the soil, and it fertilizes the soil and allows for more food to be grown. And as we've kind of sanitized our lives, we've removed ourselves from that cycle.
Right.
And so that's the problem, is we're kind of like, we're messing it up on both ends. We're processing out and kind of sequestering the nitrogen that we're naturally producing, and then we're pulling it out of the atmosphere because we're like, we need more nitrogen. It's right. We're supposed to make it, and it's supposed to go back into the ground. So I love the idea of trying to reestablish that connection that is supposed to exist.
When you say supposed to exist, though, I mean, agriculture
it's part of the process.
We used to be hunter gatherer.
I'm talking about like animals,
you poop by a
like
tree,
basic wild
and then
animals.
You'd go like, okay, we got to keep going. Yeah, we're not camping here tonight. Woo! And so
no, but if you're a deer, you pee and you poop on the ground.
Yeah.
And more plants grow. That's kind of the basis of the nitrogen cycle, and that's where we, that and dead stuff, right? That's where we're all coming from.
Yeah, and we were a part of that as well before we started putting ourselves into an agricultural culture. We were hunter-gatherers. We were wandering around. Maybe we had middens or areas that were latrines that we created when we were in our tribal stages of development. But, that's still part of it. There was, still part of it.
Yeah, but the agricultural revolution, when we stopped traveling very far, staying for years or generations in one location. Yeah. Then we started to have to mitigate,
the waste.
That midden wasn't at the edge of the thing, was now in the middle of town. Yeah. So we've been trying to distance ourselves from this as a problem for now thousands of years. That it took that long to occur to us. Like, maybe there's something useful in the way that the natural cycle of things up.
Yeah.
There you go. Let's see. Is anyone going to have vegetables at their Thanksgiving meal tomorrow?
Yeah.
Well,
certainly.
Think about their memories. And how you make memories at the Thanksgiving table. How are these plants going to pass on their memories? Anyway, researchers published in Trends in Plant Science this last week on their work figuring out how plants are able to adapt to the adverse effects of climate change, how they're passing down adaptations to offspring. And one of the things that really stuck out to me in the telling of this story is one of the lead researcher, Federico Martinelli, who's a plant geneticist at the University of Florence, saying that plants don't have brains, they don't have nerves, they don't have a way to store their memories, and they don't have language, they don't have a way to tell stories and pass things down informationally in a, the way we think of our storytelling and informational pass down. And he says, one day I thought how the living style and experience of a person can affect his or her gametes, transmitting molecular marks of their life into their children. Immediately I thought that even more epigenetic marks must be transmitted in plants, being that plants are sessile organisms that are subjected to many more environmental stresses than animals during their lives. So as the seasons change, as cold seasons get shorter, as hotter seasons get longer, as the wet season dries up, how do plants send information on how to survive down to the next generation from what they've learned in just the most recent period of time? Not, the stuff that's not necessarily bound up in the DNA. And this researcher then said, well, it's definitely going to be based in epigenetics. These mechanisms allow plants to recognize the occurrence of a previous environmental condition and react more promptly in the presence of the same consequential condition. And so in their work, they highlighted a number of key genes, proteins, oligonucleotides that are involved in abiotic stresses like drought, salinity, cold, heat, heavy metals, pathogens, etc. And they've provided a whole bunch of examples for the molecular mechanisms that are responsible for plant memories. And that it's, plants have to have had another way to transmit information from generation to generation than simply DNA or storytelling. There's got to be something else there. And so the way they tell this story in this particular paper is that it's the epigenome that is very important to these memories. It's somatic memory that can be then translated transgenerationally.
Once again, I will say, Lamarck, we're sorry.
Yeah, right.
We're sorry.
We're sorry, Lamarck. You were right on that. Yeah, you had some good ideas. Mm-hmm.
The giraffe was maybe a little much, but like you had the basic idea down. You really did.
Yeah, and I said no to Lamarck so many times when I thought I knew so much from my genetics classes in university. I was so wrong. And Justin, actually, you used to be like, "Oh, and Lamarck. Let's talk about Lamarck." And
yeah, well, because it just makes sense.
It does. It just.
So one of the things too is we've seen evidence of plants learning, of creating seeding and growth strategies based on a previous generation's access to water. So we've known this exists. We know they have this memory. We know they have these amazing abilities. We know they listen. We know they spike their sugar when they hear bees flying by. And there was this story that I didn't bring. I've lost it. I can't find it now. I was thinking about recycling and bringing it in, where they're also changing some iridescent coloring. Flowers can alter iridescent coloring on them to signal bees, and they can also regulate that up and down in the presence of bees. It's to sort of advertise, like, got the good sugars over here. Come check out this pond. Whatever they're shouting out there.
My sugars. I got a sugar.
But they have all sorts of other tricks to lure in pollinators, which is amazing. So.
Lure them in and tell the stories through their epigenome. Dun, dun, dun. But Blair, did you have one more story there?
Oh yes, I have a quick one. Just while you're around the family table tomorrow, if you are celebrating Thanksgiving, and your parents are just really getting on your nerves, well, just be happy your mom's not a cichlid fish. That's because researchers at Central Michigan University have found that cichlid fish, it's not so fun to be their babies. That's because we know from prior research that cichlids brood their young in their mouths for up to 2 weeks after their eggs are fertilized. And you guessed it, about 40% of those offspring get eaten.
Oops.
Who'd have thought? They looked at 80 females that laid eggs. They were all fertilized by males. After fertilization, they observed how the brooding proceeded. As expected, the mothers kept their offspring in their mouths for 2 weeks. As they did so, the researchers noted that the mothers didn't eat regular food at all. They also found that the mothers behaved in ways that researchers described as stressed. The researchers then dissected some of the mothers showing different levels of stress and found that higher levels of stress chemicals in those fish who behaved in more stressed out ways. So yes, they were indeed stressed. On average, the mothers ate approximately 40% of their offspring, and 93% of those fish ate at least some of their young. So if you were in that lucky 7%, your mom didn't eat any of you.
But that's a rare thing. Yeah.
Yeah, very rare. They also found that those mothers who appeared to be more stressed you guessed it, they tended to eat more of their babies.
Oh, no.
So, yes.
Stress eating. Oh, my babies. Ah!
Yeah. The researchers note that eating one of one's offspring might seem like a reduction in reproductive success. You think? But it might be offset by health benefits, in addition to nutrients that they get from eating their offspring.
Oh, no.
Yum, nutrients. The mothers also get an antioxidant boost, which gives them the energy they need to spawn again in just a few months, which you wouldn't need to do if you hadn't eaten your babies. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So I don't quite get that reasoning. I really feel like it is a mechanical mistake. That's what it sounds like to me. You're holding a bunch of babies in your mouth. You haven't eaten in 2 weeks. Oops, I swallowed some. That really feels like it to me.
I'm stressed out and I just take a gulp out of the water and nope, I just swallowed my babies.
Oopsie.
Yeah. You're not as careful.
You don't want to cook tonight? Yeah, I don't really feel like cooking tonight either. Do you want to order out or should we just eat the baby? It just doesn't seem like
one of the babies. Just 40% of the babies. Just 40%. They'll still make the 60% left. Plenty to go around.
Doesn't sound like a real thought out option.
Yeah. So what you'd want to know
really sounds like an oopsie to me.
Right. So you've got 7% of the population who are moms who are maybe not as stressed out, who for whatever reason their genes are like, I'm just coasting through life, and so they're not stressed and they've got enough energy and maybe they're bigger or whatever, but they're fine and they don't make mistakes because they're super mom. And so anyway, we're not going to talk about them anymore, but they're out there adding whatever they're adding to the population, right? And then you've got the big mass of people, not people, sorry. People aren't baby eaters, I hope. Then you have the majority.
Just doing their best.
The majority of moms who are just trying, right? These cichlids are like, they're just trying here. And they're maybe a little bit more stressed out, but their genes are also maybe going to be affecting their anxiety levels and their offspring's anxiety levels. And so, the genetic aspects of this are very interesting to consider. And then there is, but just one second, that what Blair was saying, she didn't really understand like the downstream genetic effects of being eaten. Well, if you are, the Punnett square kind of stuff, if you are half related to your brothers and sisters, that genetic that benefit that you've given them is a genetic benefit if you are helping your mother to have another generation of children.
Well, and on the whole, if 60% make it and they were brooding outside of the mouth and 20% made it because the rest of them got eaten by other fish,
yes,
it is still beneficial to then brood them in your mouth where you might, swallow 40%, right?
Yeah.
So if it's
you eat fewer,
then it's still worth it. But it's just so funny to be like, you don't say. The mother fish with the babies, she ate some? No. What?
I mean, we've talked about this. Everybody swallowed gum at some point. If you're walking and chewing gum, at some point you've accidentally swallowed it. It happens.
Oh, I used to always swallow my gum intentionally.
Could have been that cichlid mom. Oops.
Well, but the thing that's interesting about this is this can't also be like they've noticed the stress level differences, but you would think that might be a genetic underpinning, but it seems like that would have been removed by all the 40% and 60% of offspring that were removed from the population, whereas supermom fish is putting out a full batch of potentially no stress.
There's nobody saying anything about how these babies are organized within the mom's mouth.
Right.
So is it completely random? Do these baby eggs have different levels of activity? Are the less, because as these little fish larvae in their little bubble egg sacs, as they start growing, they're moving around just like, little babies are, I'm in my little bubble egg and moving around.
Yeah, maybe that's how they're surviving.
Yeah. And so they move around more. Maybe they're moving
better
toward
swimmers. It's just they're swimming the wrong way.
No, I was saying the other direction. The less active fish are possibly the ones who are just kind of sinking to the back of the mouth where the mother's more likely to swallow them.
I think they're swimming down. They're like, I'm getting out of here. Where's this lead? And then they just swim
I think it's
down
100% a mistake.
Who knows?
They accidentally swallow some babies.
Totally
that stresses them out because they know they swallow. They went, oh no. That's how they get their stress, cycle. Right? And it is completely random. That 7% that doesn't swallow any babies, no genetic indicator. Just totally random. If you accidentally swallow some babies, you get stressed out, you show stress hormones. That's my hypothesis.
I say, as a biologist, we often want to put, it's survival benefit, right? But sometimes it's just luck of the draw. It's stochastic chance, right? This is oopsies. I ate my baby. Okay. This is This Week in Science. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Science Fun. If you are enjoying the show right now, head over to TWIS.org where you can find our annual calendar sales are going on. That's right. Right now, Blair's calendar is up for sale. The 2023 TWIS, Blair's Animal Corner calendar, is available on our TWIS website at TWIS.org. Click on the colorful picture of the TWIS 2023 Blair's Animal Corner calendar to be taken to Zazzle.com, where you can purchase the wonderful calendar in a printed format. Or just below the calendar, you will see a link that says purchase the 2023 TWIS calendar digital download. By now, that will send you to an embedded page once you've purchased the digital download calendar so that you can download a CMYK full color, beautiful PDF that you can print out on your own. So head over to TWIS.org. Get yourself a calendar. Get your friends a calendar today. We do appreciate you enjoying the show. And now let's come on back, and I think it's time for a part of the show that we like to call Blair's Animal Corner with Blair.
She loves our creatures, great and small. Biped, millipede, no pet at all. If you want to hear about animals, she's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels. Blair's Animal Corner.
What you got, Blair?
Oh my goodness. I have a story I'm really excited to share with everyone today. I'm not sure other people will be as interested, but let me just explain. So I should put myself down ahead of time. I know.
I don't think you're going to be interested in this, but
late breaking frog anatomy news. And I teased it last week because I was so excited to talk about it. I was like, I have to talk about it. It broke just before the show last week. Frogs. How did they swallow? This is something that we haven't known. There's a lot of confusion around it. It took until the mid-20th century to figure out how their tongues work. They finally figured it out by observing in high-speed video the tongues, so that they figured out they unroll like a party horn, they wrap around their target and in an adhesive hug, they call it, and pull it into their mouths. But what happens after that? Really difficult to tell because, first of all, how do said treats get unstuck from the tongue? Also, if you watch a frog swallow, what I was told in all of my time working with animals is that their eyeballs push the food down. Because if you watch a frog or a toad swallow...
Their eyeballs?
So this is what I was always told.
Eyeballs.
If you watch, when they swallow, they close their eyes and their eyes recede into their head. So this was the conventional wisdom or educated guess on how frog swallowing worked. The eyeballs push it down. But nobody knew for sure. So, researchers used X-ray videography. So they placed toads in a clear observation box. They attached metallic beads at key points in the mouths of cane toads, Rhinella marina, and they fed them a steady stream of crickets while filming them with X-ray videography. The thing about frog mouths is that they're super weird. They have a complex pulley system of cartilage and muscle. they have these crazy tongues that I was talking about before. And they have a hyoid, a cartilaginous plate called a hyoid, which a hyoid arch is something we have in our throats, but it's kind of just suspended in midair amongst a bunch of not bones, basically. Right. And so the hyoid, in a lot of senses in our neck, is a vestige from when we were reptiles and amphibians, way back when.
I mean, we're still reptiles, technically.
Right. Yes. And so they have this big fat hyoid. They have a cartilaginous plate as their hyoid. It has loops and prongs attached to muscles. It rests on the floor of their mouths. And the function so far has been unknown. So you can see where this is going. The hyoid, it turns out, plays a big part in how swallowing works. And the eyes have nothing to do with it. The other crazy thing is that a lot of frog species, there's about 7,000 known frog species, which toads are frogs, but not all frogs are toads, right? So a bunch of frog species have fang-like teeth on the roof of their mouths, and then toads, which generally don't have teeth, have ridges, like a washboard, along the upper palate. So they have this giant hyoid. They have these weird protrusions that are hard in the roof of their mouth, either teeth or this washboard made of cartilage. And so what they found was that the whole floor of the mouth was pulled down and backward into the throat, and the tongue along with it via the hyoid. They reconstructed the movements into 3D animations. They created a play-by-play from still frames to try to figure out exactly what was going on. So the tongue comes out. It reaches its full extent. It grabs its prey. The hyoid then retracts into the throat. The tongue, which is directly attached to the hyoid, slingshots back into the mouth because the hyoid is pulling it down. It's going whoosh, and it pulls the tongue back. So that's the recoil of the tongue. That's where this comes from. They're not sure how far the hyoid could move because instead it kind of slams into the frog's heart.
What?
And so it's
that's why the eyes close.
No. It's actually, it seems to be highly coordinated. It slides against the heart milliseconds before the tongue smashes into the cartilaginous cushion of the hyoid. The other piece that's crazy is that until now, no one's known how they unstick the prey from their tongue. Because once the tongue has grabbed it, how do they get it off?
It gets pulled off during this process, right?
Yeah.
It's like ripped off.
It's ripped off, but they think actually by those things on the roof of their mouths, either the teeth or the plate.
Ridges.
Yeah. So the hyoid shoots up and presses the tongue against the roof immediately afterwards. And it moves forward. It scrapes the food off into the esophagus. So this would explain the ridges and fangs on the upper palate. This whole process takes less than 2 seconds. Most of that time is spent repositioning the tongue and hyoid after it's been slingshotted back and forth. And so this challenges everything we've assumed about how frogs and toads eat, but the big asterisk here
is
not
that
the
eyeballs.
Was done on cane toads, one species.
Right.
So now is the time to do a comparative study amongst a bunch of frogs and toads to see whether the feeding behavior of these cane toads is the rule rather than the exception. Is this the thing we see everywhere or mostly everywhere in frogs and toads? So, or did they just pick the worst and most unlucky test subject in the world? So hopefully it's that first one. It's a really good example species for all of frogs and toads. But it's so funny to think about how much of zoology has been based on observation, right? And the more tools that we get at our disposal and the more ways we can think about to measure how the form and function of animals work, the more we learn. Because just watching frogs and toads, you go, oh, it's the eyeballs. They're pushing the food down. Duh.
I have never thought it was the eyeballs, Blair.
I have been told time and time again that it is the eyeballs. I heard it in college.
We know.
I heard it at every zoo and aquarium I've ever worked at. It's the eyeballs. But now we know it's not the eyeballs. It's the hyoid, which seems like the more likely, actually, if you just, want to think logically about it. It's fine. Anyway, think about that while you're swallowing your Thanksgiving meal. What's your hyoid up to?
It's the hyoid, man.
Yeah.
It's the hyoid that
I love it. So hopefully everybody found that as interesting as I did. Moving on. The last thing that might come up tomorrow that I wanted to talk about in terms of the animal kingdom, animals, they're just like us, is that you might have a family member, and if you don't, it's you, who likes to show off. Say, hey, look at me. Look what I can do. Hey, look at this thing that I got. Hey, check out the new gadget that I bought. I don't know. There's always, we like to share experiences, right?
Yeah, it's me.
Yeah. So we like to share experiences. We like to share objects. We like to marvel in things together. And for a long time, it has been assumed that these very specific social interactions were previously only for humans. Can you guess? And the answer is...
They found an animal that does this.
They found an animal that does this.
Which animal?
Yes.
Can I guess? Because I'm guessing from all animals, but humans. I'm going to say... Huh? Yeah. Other than humans. I want to say that it's... that I could see this happening in chimps. I'd be a little confused, but not surprised if it happened in mice, like what they would be showing off. But I also think birds could be, because birds might be like, oh, look at this interesting tool that I have manufactured, and check out what I can do with it. So now I need the real answer.
It's chimps. Yeah, you guessed it the first time. But this is different from saying, look at this tool that I made, because that's social learning. This is showing something off just to go, hey, look at that. Like throw it over your shoulder and be done with it, right? So this was... Here's the big asterisk on this piece. It is one encounter among two chimps that was observed once. So this is something unusual that was observed that I wanted to just talk about for a second. But this is not a systemic observation amongst chimps in a specific group or amongst the entire species. That needs to be looked at further. However, I feel pretty confident that in chimps and in other animal species, this is something that you will start to see. And we're going to watch the video right now, and I will narrate it for our listeners. So there's one chimp who's kind of mouthing a leaf, and it's just a leaf. It's not food. It's not a tool. It's not anything she can use. And then she just shows it. She shoves it in front of the face of a second chimp as if to say, look at this leaf. And then puts it right back and starts looking at it again on her side. So again, there's no food on this leaf. There's no function for this leaf. She's just like, hey, check out this cool leaf that I found. And that's it. So these chimps...
look at it. Look at it.
Yeah. This is a mother and daughter. So this is the daughter encouraging her mother to just join her in looking at a leaf. And there have been lots of social interactions that chimps have been observed doing, where they share experiences with each other. They use gestures to kind of indicate interest, but this is something very unique in that it is something that has no function. All previously documented referential gestures in primates were given to request something and not just to share attention. So even if it was something that didn't have a function, they were trying to use it to get their attention to do something. This is really just, hey, look at this thing. And then they keep hanging out together, and that's it. And so this is really just an invitation to do further study. But they examined 80 similar leaf grooming events in order to rule out other explanations, including food sharing and initiating grooming or playing. So they measured this one against all the other ones. It really seemed unique and different. Co-author Professor Slocombe of the University of York added, quote, while there is a need to identify further examples of this behavior in chimpanzees, our observations indicate that sharing attention for sharing's sake is not unique to humans. It has been argued that our ability to share experiences helped us evolve the cognitive abilities to set us apart from other species, such as our capacity for joint action, cooperation, and language. Our observations raise new questions about why humans share experiences more often than our closest living relatives, and whether engaging in this behavior at a higher frequency than other species can still explain the evolution of cognitive functions underpinning human social behavior. So that's her way of kind of saying, like, but we still might be special because we do it a lot.
Yeah,
so,
we do it more.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what all of social media is, hey, look at this. It's just asking
Sharing.
for attention. It's often not asking for specific action, right?
Yeah, just attention.
Yeah, my favorite cartoon is what does it say? The wife is the guy's at the computer and his wife's like, "Hey, when are you coming to bed?" And he's like, "Somebody on the internet is still wrong." Something like he's still correcting things on the internet. Like, no, that's right. You said that.
It was like the joke for a very long.
Whenever I hear those things. Whenever I hear those things in terms of this leading to a behavior leading to a cognitive ability in humans, I'm always like, well, likely all of those cognitive abilities, all those behaviors came about as a result of cognitive ability. Like, I don't feel like we built small cognitive abilities one by one, then the brain increased to have the capacity to continue them. Feel like the brain got
cognitive ability
bigger, and then there was it feels like it went that direction. So
it's as someone who's spent a lot of time around animals, I can tell you that a lot, like almost every animal I've ever seen, really, can spend attention on something that is visually interesting, and so if they can do that, if they can watch TV, or if they can watch humans, or if they can look at a strange object moving in a strange way and just watch passively, then why can't they do this? This seems like a version of that, right? Hey, look at this thing. But it's the bridge of the social connection of not just I can watch and engage in an observation of an interesting thing, but I want this other individual to also pay attention to this thing, and which requires like a knowledge of another being in a space, and that they have their own attention span and they are looking or not looking at a thing, right? So it requires a lot of complex thought to understand the relative nature of other individuals, but
theory of mind.
Right. But it doesn't feel impossible to me for primates, for birds, for other animals.
Yeah, and we know that.
Well, I mean, we have so many examples.
The chimpanzee young are just like jumping around and playing and all over their parents and like getting their parents' attention all the time in all sorts of different physical ways. And perhaps this is an older child, right? So maybe this is not playing, but still that, child need for attention and a different way to get it. So maybe, this is that kind of next step in mental development of the chimpanzee brain in how that attention is gained.
I love that. That totally makes sense. Because we do that too, right? When we get older, we don't ask our parents to like, hey, look what I can do, and we do a handstand. No, we're telling our parents about our latest achievement, or or a thing that we made with our own hands, or just stuff that that is kind of at a different level of shared attention. Absolutely, I think that totally makes sense.
Yeah, come to my house and share a meal with me.
But it could
talk about a book with you. Yeah,
I mean. I guess I don't know why it would be terribly differentiated from learning, because we have many examples across the animal kingdom of the older adult showing, orcas show the young how to hunt, and they practice even with the baby seals and stuff like this. We have it's endless. We have the bird that's saying, "Okay, I'm ready to learn." And then you're observing the little bird to see, that looks like they're ready for the singing lesson. Yeah, because they're paying enough attention. It could also be a form of practice or play for a learning event, which is, mom's always showing the young one, here, look at this, and then we do a thing. And the younger one might be practicing teaching by going, oh, here, look at this. But that was the end of the lesson. There's There's no learning moment there, but they're picking up those pieces where you're getting attention of another one. And maybe that young chimp will then have a baby and be like, here's a leaf. Oh yeah, I forgot this lesson goes nowhere. Oh, here's a stick. Let's go. Let me get termites out of a hill. That one, I know how that one is. So it could just be practice for a shared learning experience and teaching experience that animals do quite a bit in the animal kingdom.
Yeah.
I think with two animals, it's very hard to say anything, but it's interesting that the behavioral researchers are just noting it as a behavior now for the first time, separate from others. So I think that's that's going to allow other observations and differentiations.
Yeah, it's all about recognizing that animals have the capacity for things that we designate as uniquely human. Then you start to see it everywhere. So you're right. This opens up the opportunity to observe it. Yeah.
Yep. This is This Week in Science. I do hope that you are observing this live streamed podcast or, asynchronously viewed somewhere, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or potentially you're listening to us on a podcast. We love that you're with us. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. And don't forget to head over to TWIS.org to get your 2023 TWIS Blair's Animal Corner calendar. All right, Justin, what you got?
It's time for Just Good News. The science news segment that hears the strange growling sound coming from the basement of the recent research lab and goes to investigate the source of the sound with nothing but an intermittently operating flashlight and a healthy dose of optimism. It's Just Good News, Mass Extinction Edition. The Earth is not currently experiencing a sixth major extinction event. It has been believed in most scientific circles that the planet Earth, the one we're living on, it was in the midst of the sixth global mass extinction event. Not so, say researchers from the University of California at Riverside and Virginia Tech. So, yay, good news! In the study and the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, the researchers were exploring life forms around 550 million years old. They found that the percentage of organisms that vanished from this time period to the next was similar to other documented extinction events that killed off nearly 80%, or in this case, killed off nearly 80% of the first complex multicellular life forms on the planet. This form of life was sort of odd looking by more complex future life forms. Lots of orby disc-shaped things. They only lasted 10 million years, so kind of a flash in the pan evolutionarily. And researchers believe environmental changes were to blame for the extinction event. Geological records, this is quoting Chenyai Tu of University of California, Riverside. He's a paleoecologist and the study's co-author. Geological records show that the world's oceans lost a lot of oxygen during that time. And the few species that did survive had bodies adapted for lower oxygen environments. Though it's not clear why oxygen levels declined at the end of that era, it is clear that environmental change can destabilize and destroy life on Earth at any time point. Such changes have driven all mass extinctions, including the one currently occurring, in which we are losing thousands of species each year due to climate change. Okay, well, I guess if you're counting, we can no longer be considered to be in the sixth major mass extinction event in Earth's history. Turns out it's the seventh. Unlike later events,
thanks, Justin.
This earliest one was more difficult to document because the creatures that perished were soft-bodied and did not preserve well in the fossil record. We humans, on the other hand, will be having an indelible mark on it for future paleoecologists to sift through, be they chimp or mouse or octopus, whoever's running the show and the next sentient, the sentient dolphins. I'd go orca then if we're gonna go marine.
That's a type of dolphin.
It is.
I guess. Well, okay, fair enough.
I know you said that on purpose.
Ah!
And actually, you know what? I tell you what, maybe this study's the good news study. We'll make this one the good news study because that one kind of ended badly.
What is this one?
Got tricked me.
I don't believe
So this has been published in the scientific journal Global Change Biology. It's a study from the Greenland Institute of Natural Resources and the National Institute of Aquatic Resources, Technical University Denmark, DTU. They found that large numbers of whales have been moving into the waters off eastern Greenland. So whales have found a new home. The once subarctic ecosystem off southeast Greenland, once dominated by large amounts of drifting ice pack, has become more temperate with less sea ice and warmer ocean temperatures. These changes in summer ocean conditions are making the region more attractive for large numbers of fin and humpback whales, as well as other species like tuna. That all sounds great. Dramatic ecological changes such as these are considered regime shifts. In the ecological literature, shifts from one regime to another occur at a tipping point, and sometimes reverse, sometimes are not reversible. And the regime shift then can have cascading effects throughout the ecosystem if it is not reversed. This is quoting Professor Miles Peter Have Jorgensen, Greenland Institute of Natural Resources. In this case, the new regime will likely become permanent for the foreseeable future unless temperatures cool and the ice export from the north increases again. Continued 21st century climate change makes this scenario unlikely. This is then Brian McKenzie, National Institute of Aquatic Resources at DTU. This event is so unusual. In the past 200 years of summer ice observations in the region, we have seen big changes in some of the upper trophic levels. There are likely many other changes in the ecosystem and food web that have not yet been described and might be part of the reason why highly migratory species are coming to the region. So sort of like the frog guy swallowing situation. They're making observations. They're seeing ice. They're seeing the migratory mammals showing up. But of course, very difficult to really observe the underlying food web that's taking place below to see how dramatic these changes actually are and how far past the tipping point. Though this has apparently been going on for a while. Back in 2012, bluefin tuna were being caught as bycatch in trawl fisheries in the waters off East Greenland, which was something that had never been encountered before and got a lot of attention back then. Since then, large numbers of fin and humpback whales have been showing up. They started to occur together with temperate species like dolphins, killer whales, pilot whales. At the same time, observations of high Arctic species, narwhal, walrus, started to dwindle. Decreasing. So they're getting pushed out. Either by the water temperatures or by the other species that are moving in. Don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, all these animals are also governed by the things they eat, right? Which is what they were getting to, talking about the trophic level.
The food web, right.
Right. So yeah. the animals that are leaving are likely leaving because their food source has left.
It could be their food source has left. It could be the other ones are migrating because their food source moved in down below, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But you'd think something like mackerel, which is more of a feeder fish, would be indicative. So the levels there are dwindling. And then you see some of the predators that would have been eating the mackerel or predators that would have been eating tuna. But, yeah, there are probably many different situations we can consider. Who's the predator? Who's the prey? And what are we seeing happen?
Yeah, they say this the ecological shift in East Greenland has been also driven by the decline in summer ice drift. So we know Greenland's melting, so you think, oh, there should be more ice drifting around, right? There should be more of that stuff going on. So it turns out, which this is something I didn't know, I've just learned from this study, that most of this ice drift that you see off of eastern Greenland, and I've seen it before. The route that the planes fly over Greenland to get to Denmark, they go right over eastern Greenland. And there is this amazing area where it just seems like an endless expanse of drifting ice coming off the Iceland shelf.
Right.
Or the Greenlandic shelf. But it's not from Greenland, which I had always thought. That ice all forms north of Alaska and then slowly churns out over Greenland and then gets like sort of accelerated out to sea from there. So apparently it's not as endless as I thought because it's been in decline, and that is why partly why maybe there's the warmer temperature or the more room for air breathing mammals to get in there and utilize that water.
So the good news of this, it's like a new normal? Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah. New place for whales to hang out. For a lot of whales. Okay. Except for the narwhal and the
if you want to go whale watching, go to
Greenland. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, just good news.
You gotta find the silver lining in all of the,
Do you?
Anyway, just good news.
I like to find the silver linings somewhere in there. All right, I have a couple of stories before we close out the show. Number one, if you enjoy putting on makeup on a daily basis or on an occasional basis, and you're just not excited about the foundation, the concealer, all the stuff that you think you need to make your skin even and flawless, and look, I have no pores. Anyway, that's not going to happen, but new research just published in Vision Research, the journal, has studied whether or not just applying makeup to the eyes and lips impacts how people see your skin. And they did digital makeup application in pictures, comparing pictures with even skin using concealer, foundation, no makeup at all, or just makeup applied to the eyes and the lips. And they also did a real professionally applied makeup, to real people, not just digital makeup, comparison. And they determined that people see your skin as more flawless when makeup is only applied to the eyes and the lips.
Yes.
So if you just want to do the mascara and the lipstick, maybe a little bit of eyeshadow or something, it's going to draw the attention of people's visual field away from the specifics of the rest of your face and potentially give the impression that your skin is more flawless than it actually is without having to conceal anything.
So I'm going to pretend that I knew this result all along because I am too lazy to put on concealer. And so I think I have put on concealer less than a dozen times in my entire life. So I'm going to pretend I knew it. I knew it. And I just paid attention to the eyes and the lips. That's it. Don't worry about the rest. I love this. Save so much money and time.
So much time.
As somebody who has never really worn makeup, but has observed that concealer stuff or whatever, those bases, those covered, those can go very easily wrong. They become extremely noticeable if they're caked on or applied unevenly or whatever. So it's just avoid it. Just skip that. Just go with this.
Yes.
Eyes and lips.
Yeah.
There you go.
We think we need all the makeup, but you don't.
All those contouring videos on TikTok. Who needs them?
Who needs them? It does. This research does really kind of get at some of the of previous research that suggests that when people are looking at faces, our visual system, our brain, and the way that we recognize faces is actually more of a holistic view, and that we are looking at things that are important for communication. So the eyes and the mouth are very important for communicating messages and very important for behavioral communication. And so that's why this seems like it makes a lot of sense, right? Why pay attention to those little tiny details that observers' brains are not necessarily paying attention to anyway. The eyes and the lips have it, everyone.
That's great.
That's what our brains like. Yes. So, Thanksgiving tomorrow. If you feel like you need to put on that makeup, don't. It's your family.
Just eyes and lips. That's all. Which the lips you don't even have to bother because you're going to eat. So the lips are going to wear right off. So just the eyes, and even forget about that. Just
go have a good time, everybody, and forget about all the makeup
just
at all.
Come as you are,
No, although I hate to perpetuate any sort of women or anybody should wear makeup kind of a stereotype, because I've never really cared for it. But I had this dear friend that I worked with, and she had very faint eyelashes. She's blonde, but she had very faint eyelashes. And if she didn't wear mascara, she's like, "Oh, I didn't wear mascara today, Justin." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's fine." She's like, "Yes, but now everybody's asking if I'm sick."
Oh, yeah.
See, this is the thing that happens. If you regularly wear makeup and you don't wear it one day, everyone will ask you if you are sick or tired.
Nobody can pick up why. But it's like, "Are you tired? Did you sleep last night? Are you coming down with something?" She's like, "Oh, I gotta go do the makeup."
This is the catch-22. What you do is you just never wear it. And then if you occasionally wear it, then everyone's like, "Oh my God, you look gorgeous." Exactly. But like otherwise just like normal every day. Otherwise, this is the problem that I ran into was in my last job. I wore a lot more makeup than I used to. And if I would ever tone it down, it was, "Ooh, are you sick? Do you need to go home?"
No, I'm fine. I'm sorry I didn't Tammy Faye it. Come on. Oh my God. All right. So on my final story, I do want to have us think about the birds and think about what the birds eat before we eat them. But I'm not going to talk about turkeys. We are going to discuss the great bustard male.
Oh,
the great bustard.
This boy.
That's a bigot, right?
Yeah, these are a lecking species, very grouse-like. They have a big front patch of feathers, and they puff up their chests to impress the females, and they have big tail feathers that they fluff up when they're trying to impress the ladies. And they really do want to be as healthy as they can be. Some researchers were looking into whether or not these birds in specific, choose their diet as a way to accentuate their health. And so their study in Frontiers in Ecology and Evolution, it suggests that they seek out plants with compounds that can actually kill pathogens. So they determined that during the mating season, these great bustards, according to co-author Dr. Azucena Gonzalez Coloma from the Institute of Agricultural Sciences in Madrid, the great bustards seek out two species of weeds that are also used by humans in traditional medicine. We show that both contain antiprotozoal and nematicidal worm-killing compounds, while the second also contains antifungal agents. They compared these birds in the Iberian Peninsula to see what they were eating during different times of the year. And they found that during the spring season, the droppings that they collected, they didn't watch them, they just observed the poop of the birds.
No need. Poop tells the story.
It tells the story. 623 droppings from female and male bustards during the mating season in April, and they looked at tissue that was left over from stems and leaves and flowers from about 90 different plant species that grow in the area, and they showed that two species, the Papaver roeus and the Echium plantagineum. These are the corn poppy and the purple viper's bug gloss that are eaten more than expected from their relative abundance compared to the amount of plants locally in the environment and how much is actually in the diet. So that's what these males are out doing. They're like, let me get some of that bug loss and be
so
healthy.
They're showing up to the lek. They got their shake kind of cup with the wire ball in it that they shake up, right? That has the creatine in it and the vitamin C boost and all this stuff. And they're like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm juicing. I'm ready. I'm ready for you.
That's right. No, I don't have any nematodes. That's right. No protozoans on me. That's right.
I'm yoked. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. The researchers, the authors, tested the activity of the molecular fractions that they had obtained from these plants that they had looked at. They found that the molecules, the alkaloids, essential oils, others, actually were very successful against Trichomonas gallinae, which is a protozoa, nematode, a parasitic worm, and that's Meloidigine javanica, and the fungus, Aspergillus niger. So, this is interesting because it suggests that not only humans are capable of seeking out food for their medicinal properties, that birds do it, we do it. That's right. Everybody's trying to stay healthy. And it's fascinating. I mean, we've talked also about like catnip and other plants that our animals enjoy, potentially having these kinds of medicinal uses. And so it's just interesting. The male birds who need to show off and be healthy, look at what I'm eating.
Right. The question is, where does this behavior come from, right? So like when we get cravings sometimes because we are deficient in something. But this doesn't really feel like that. It feels like they're trying to boost something. So if they're getting a craving, it's not because they're deficient. It's because their hormones are telling them, or
so I mean, maybe that is the question. Were these birds infected with protozoans or nematodes coming into the season, and then the plants helped them, or and is that what led to them eating these foods more? Or
when they get a spike in testosterone, do they just crave these foods? And where does that come from? Is that something in their genetics? I don't know. So bizarre. Is it something that's learned? That's
a lot of animal food preference, I have to assume, is genetic. You know, how much of it is learned, how much of it is genetic, how much of it is microbiome driven? Because then, if you're learning a little bit from your parents, then maybe that microbiome gets situated early, and then that takes over. But it could just be, this was a long time ago food preference for some segment of a bird population. And then come the nematodes and the what have you. Here comes and then now all those birds that didn't eat these plants are gone. And so what you're left with.
But it's only during one time of the year, right? It's only during.
But is that also when the plants are there, or is it plants year round? Like the poppy isn't year round.
But it was relative. There's all sorts of other plants around, but they just happen to be eating them more, and the males were eating them more than the females. Anyway. Right. What is your turkey eating before you eat your turkey?
Probably corn, right? Is that?
Probably. Yeah. Probably. If you're eating the meats, some people are having ham, some people are having turkey, some people are having tofu. Doesn't matter what you eat. Just matters that you are able to share time and a little bit of gratitude for all the things that we've got and the people who are in our lives at this very moment, and the science that has brought us all together. I think we've made it to the end of another show, and I just want to say thank you all so much. I'm grateful. So grateful. All right. Who do I need to say thank you to? I want to say thank you. Justin, Blair, thank you for being co-hosts. Really love getting to do the show with you every week. Really love it. Yes. Thank you, Fada, for all your help.
Thank you for also showing up.
You're welcome. I try. Okay. Fada, thank you so much for your help on social media and getting those show notes done. Really appreciate that. Gord, Arnlor, others who help keep the chat rooms very happy places to be. Thank you for your time and your effort. Identity 4, thank you for recording the show. Rachel, thank you for editing the show. People who are watching and are in our chat rooms, on our Twitch, or Facebook, our YouTube channel, thank you for being here while we're doing the show live and for talking and for being a part of what we're talking about. Really love having you here. And as always, I would love to say thank you to our patrons. Thank you to Teresa Smith, James Schaefer, Richard Badge, Kent Northcote, Rick Loveman, Pierre Velazar, Ralphie Figueroa, John Ratnaswamy, Carl Kornfeld, Karen Tazi, Woody MS, Chris Wozniak, Dave Bunn, Vigard Shefstad, Hal Snyder, Donathan Stiles, a.k.a. Don Stylo, John Lee, Ali Coffin, Gaurav Sharma, Reagan, Derek Schmidt, Don Mundis, Stephen Albaran, Daryl Myshak, Stu Pollock, Andrew Swanson, Fredis 104, Sky Luke, Paul Ronovich, Kevin Reardon, Noodles, Jack, Brian Carrington, David E. Youngblood, Matt Bass, Vote Beto for Texas, I guess next time. John McKee, Greg Riley, Mark Hessenflow, Steve Leisman, a.k.a. Zima, Ken Hayes, Christopher Rappin, Dana Pearson, Richard, Brendan Minish, Johnny Gridley, Remy Day, Flying Out, Christopher Dreyer, Greg Briggs, John Atwood, Rudy Garcia, Dave Wilkinson, Rodney Lewis, Paul, Rick Ramus, Philip Shane, Kurt Larson, Sue Doster, Jason Olds, Dave Neighbor, Eric Knapp, E.O., Adam Mishkan, Kevin Parachan, Aaron Luthen, Steve DeBell, Bob Calder, Marjorie, Paul Disney, David Simmerly, Patrick Picararo, Tony Steele, and Jason Roberts. Thank you so much for all of your support on Patreon. And if you are interested in supporting us on Patreon, you can head over to twist.org and click on the Patreon link. We also have our calendars for sale for 2023 at twist.org as well. On next week's show,
we will be back 8 p.m. Pacific time, 5 a.m. the next day, Central European time, broadcasting live from our YouTube and Facebook channels and from twist.org/live.
Hey, do you want to listen to us as a podcast? Perhaps while you bake a pie from scratch? I listened to podcasts while I baked a pie today. Just search for This Week in Science where podcasts are found. If you enjoyed the show, get your friends to subscribe as well.
For information on anything you've heard here today, show notes and links to stories will be available on our website, www.twist.org, as well as the ability to sign up for a newsletter.
You can also contact us directly. Email Kiki at Kirsten@thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twistminion@gmail.com, or me, Blair, at blairbaz@twist.org. And I will put a special tease in there that you can email me at blairbaz@twist.org if you have a particular item that you want to buy from Zazzle with a particular piece of art on it for the holidays. There's still time. There's a bunch of promo codes right now in Zazzle, so just email me and I will make it and post it in our store. If you do email any of us, just be sure to put TWIS, TWIS, in the subject line, or your email, it'll be grabbed by a toad tongue and pulled down towards the heart of that toad via their hyoid, and then they're going to swallow it, not using their eyes, and, well, I'm never going to read it. So just put TWIS in the subject line. Thank you!
And until we can figure out what a mastodon is and how to... I got to go to Twitter to figure out how to get on Mastodon, is basically the thing. We are still on the Twitter for now, where we are at Twist Science, at Dr. Kiki, at Jackson Fly, and at Blair's Menagerie. We love your feedback. If there's a topic you would like us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, a haiku that comes to in the night, please remember, or please let us know. We'll be
back here next... Threw me for a loop. We will be back next week, and we hope you'll join us again for more great science news.
And if you've learned anything from the show, please remember...
it's all in your head.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth, and I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in 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 Science. This Week